Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my review of the Legacy MMPR Auto Morphin figures Wave 1, including Red Ranger, Green Ranger, and Pink Ranger. So, this is an interesting review that I mainly wanted to do to talk about a couple things involving them. It's a really interesting release because it's the first straight-up re-release. I'm going to go into a little monologue about that at the end, but I'm going to get the review over with first, so in case you're not interested in talking about the general situation surrounding these figures, and you're just here for the figures, let's just go ahead and get started with that. Just to start with the packaging, which I don't always do anymore, but it is interesting because they do come in their original flip head packaging. This is just Jason's. If you collected in the 90s or were around in the 90s or have been on eBay since the 90s, this is the original packaging. They each come with a little tattoo that you can put on, temporary tattoo, and it's got the original backing, so it's straight up the original box. It even advertises the evil space aliens, gives you the story, talks about how to do the tattoo, shows that the weapons can combine. But like when you get it on the shelf, they're not like that. They're actually in this really kind of boring outer shell. It's just in here, it'll say the name there, and on the back it'll advertise it again and advertise the other current Legacy offerings. So that's weird. Like, it makes sense, but it's just weird. But anyway, these were originally released in the 90s. They're basically the same figures. You know, they don't have correct proportions. It's most evident in Kimberly because it makes them look a bit mannish. But they have like the coins on there, which look nicer when they're not beat up. But that's obviously not accurate, but that was a thing for all of the 90s MMPR merch. I mean, obviously, most of us were kids when that happened, but I just imagine if this was happening on a consistent basis now, like Twitter would be lit up. But yeah, so it's got the accurate colors and everything. The helmets are accurate in terms of what they represent, but the proportions aren't accurate. They're just a very oddball looking figure. The morphers are a break glass in case of emergency button. They each come with a classic gray weapon, which go in via these little peg hands, which are pretty classic for, you know what, the camera always wants to focus on who's in the back. I hate that. It's the only thing I don't like about this camera. But anyways, this classic peg system, which was used very often in the early days. It's got very minimal articulation. Well, not very minimal, but it's like pretty basic articulation here. You got mainly for the arms. Like here in the legs, like you can move it forth and a little bit back, but it doesn't really allow you to do much with the posing that comes off natural. Like, it looks like she's trying to stick a landing, but her legs have been glued together. And you can't move these heads. You can't move the hands around, or the fists or whatever. But the main gimmick is the flipping, which you can't do both ways. Like right here, oh my god, her chest is open and there's hair in it. I don't know what that voice is, but flip it back and boom, Kimberly, I think. It might be Jason in a wig. But yeah, they're a little bit glossier painted, I feel, but the main gimmick here is bam, flip head. But then you have to do it again, bam, flip head. And they updated these so these can move. I don't think the old ones could. I have one comparison figure that they can't, but yeah, that was the main gimmick, which admittedly, this was a cool gimmick back in the day. But that's something I'll get into later. But yeah, that's the gist of it. There's Pink. Here we have Red, who, you know, same thing, but red. You can get some twisting here, but you can't get it at the fists or the wrists. You get your little, it's kind of short, honestly. The classic gray weapon, a bit short. You got Jason's flipping gimmick. Look how shiny his hair is. Like, dang, he shoe polished it. But yeah, that's Jason, I think. But yeah, you can't go back and forth. That was always annoying to me as a kid, and I believe they fixed it in Zeo and Turbos where you could do it both ways, but it was like a squeeze the legs mechanism, but that would have been something cool they could have tried to update. Oh, and they all come with a individual little blade blaster, even Tommy, who shouldn't have one, that go in the holsters right here. But yeah, you get the idea. If you've seen these before, you know what's happening. And the helmet, like, it gets all the base details done, but like the proportions on it look just so weird. Alright, now Tommy's is a little bit special. Like, he comes with the blade blaster, even though he shouldn't. He comes with the dragon dagger. But he comes with this little golden armor, which is removable, so you can put it on other rangers. And it's pretty secure now, but over time they definitely become loose. Both my old Green Ranger and my White Rangers became loose over time. And you have the non-show accurate coin under there. His helmet proportions are also very strange, just the whole body in general. And his, you know, that's not gold. I love gold, but not enough to put it on my Morpher, so he's sort of the fighting spirit one. But you can move his head as well. Tommy just looks like mad and surprised. Like, look, there's like Mad Tommy. Surprise Tommy. Mad Tommy. Surprise Tommy. But yeah, so I actually have these in the past, which is something I'll get to, but the only one I could find over at my parents' house in my old displays was an old green one. And so look how beat up it is. Like, look, here's how this is. Me when they first started Legacy MMPR merchandise versus me now. Yeah, but so this is one of the main reasons I could see people wanting to get them is I've had these a long time. And this, I've described this before in old reviews, but this isn't for me playing with them like this. This is just from storage, and you know, I put them in boxes and carry them around, and they're just beat up. This is one of the worst case scenarios. The other ones aren't as bad. It's kind of hilarious that I found out a worst case scenario. Like, he's full on missing the back. Like, oh my god. And look at Tommy's like face in this one. This is like, wait for it. There we go. So yeah, again, me when the MMPR merchandise started versus me now. So yeah, and I couldn't find his shield, and he's like super loose and stuff. He does little dances, but you know, you can put the shield on any of the other Rangers. I'm gonna be basic and put it on Jason, but hashtag Basin, that's basic Jason, which is basically him. But yeah, you can do that, but you can do it on any of them, which is kind of neat. But anyway, as for review, the reasons I could see people wanting these is obviously nostalgia. You know, if you really like these figures and you want to pick them up because you don't have them anymore. Or like me, where I have a box that falls over and I'm like, no! But like if I have a beat up one and I want an updated one for my display, those are the reasons I could see it. And it is neat that they did re-release the old ones, in a way. But they're 20 bucks a piece, and honestly, when I first started serious collecting again, just a year or so before I started reviewing, one of my first purchases was an eBay set of the original 6 in box, and I think the most I paid for one individually at the time was 18, and that was on eBay, like old boxed from the 90s, and they're asking 20 bucks for a new printed one. I think 15 at the most is what these should have gone for. And when I first heard about the release of these, I honestly thought they were going to do new ones, like brand new figures, same concept of the flip heads. I was actually kind of excited to see, same thing with the MMPR, the current, or the new PR movie. I was excited to see what 2017, 2018 modern flip heads would look like, because we've progressed so much with toy engineering, but nope, we've gone back to basics. So that's kind of disappointing, but I can see the neatness in re-releasing these, and I probably would have freaked out if they would have done this years ago before all this MMPR merch. Like, back in the day, during the Disney era, pre-Overdrive anniversary stuff, I used to fantasize about them releasing collector's edition, either re-releases or updates of things like other toy lines were doing. I used to dream about it, and now it's like a never-ending nightmare. But, you know, as far as these figures go, I can only really recommend them if you really want an updated, clean version or an unopened one, but only when they go on sale. I wouldn't spend 20 bucks on these unless you just want one and done. It's your life. But I just can't really recommend them. But I could see why people want them in certain ways, because for me there's two different branches of collecting. There's wanting the really show accurate figures in mecha, but then I like owning things like this for the history. Like, I like looking at my displays, and as weird as these look and as weird as the thumb Zeo figures look, I love seeing the history of how the figures came about. And I know there's other collectors like that. But I just don't think this was the time for that. I think that if these had been released early in the days of the MMPR Legacy Collection, but now it just seems more and more like moving backwards, and I just can't fully recommend them at full price. I think you might even be better off going to eBay and finding an older one. Anyway, that's about it.